Just gonna let folks filter in before we start. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Gonna give it maybe 15, 20 seconds before I kind of jump into the presentation. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's conference info session. Today is Wednesday, February 19th. My name is Machiavelli Gresham, and I'm WAA's Membership and Programs Coordinator. Western Arts Alliance stands in solidarity with Indigenous peoples and is based respectfully in the now occupied traditional lands of the Chinook, Multnomah, Kathlamet, Clackamas, Tualatin Kalapuya, and Malawa tribes. We'll cover quite a bit of ground in today's presentation, so please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat and place any questions you may have there as well. WA staff will address the questions in the comments, or I'll address them at the end of the presentation. So please be patient for any questions that come up. Today's webinar will cover information about our current open opportunities for this year's conference 2025, including professional development, our 2 pitch sessions, and information about the changes we've made to the showcasing program at WAA this year. I'll also talk a little bit about our independent showcasing and juried showcase program. So this information won't only be relevant to you all who are interested in applying to these opportunities or proposing things, but it'll give you a little bit of insight on what to expect from this year's conference as well. And also just for a general point of housekeeping, if you're looking for more information or a deeper dive about any of the topics that I discussed during this presentation, in the bottom right corner of each slide, there's a URL, and that will be the best place to look for more robust information, and also where you'll find all the information you need for each opportunity in a deeper way as well. So just kind of jumping directly into the swing of things, we're currently taking proposals for our in-person conference sessions, and the deadline for those proposals is going to be March 14th. And professional development looks a few different ways at WA. You'll see the 8 different types kind of broken out on the slide right there. We have yet to announce this year's conference schedule, but there will be limited opportunities for all the different session types, and they will be reviewed and selected by the members currently sitting on our different committees, which include Professional Development Committee, Host Committee, and Conference Committee as we start to organize the schedule. And we will notify the results of the selection process to all applicants by no later than the end of April. And just to give some more insight on each of these 8 different program types, forums are going to be facilitated large group or breakout discussions. We hosted quite a few in San Diego on the first day, and those consist of typically one host or a group of hosts leading a conversation, but they're kind of moderating the conversation of a topic of interest with the real goal to be about problem solving and consensus building and how we move forward as a field at the core, kind of addressing some larger issues or core problems that people are working collaboratively on in that discussion to kind of solve. Moving on to the next piece, excursions are the field trips that typically occurred in previous years on the first day of the conference. These excursions will still occur on the first day of the conference, but instead of having them be solely organized by WA staff or the host committee, we're opening it up to the members, so you all can kind of give us insight on the ins and outs of our host city year over year as we kind of make this change on how we're collecting those excursions and organizing them for you all. And then moving straight into kind of the big 3 professional development types that we're going to be hosting. In previous years, we've considered all of our professional development workshops, but this year we're being very precise in how we're dictating what those differences are between them. And then to start, panels are the typical kind of conference session that most people are used to. Typically, 1 moderator and up to 4 panelists having a topic-based discussion and potentially a Q&A. But the priority way the audience does engage in these sessions is going to be mostly listening and potentially some maybe group discussion throughout the conversation that's hosted by the panelists, and maybe some back and forth, but that's not mandatory for hosting a panel. And similarly, a presentation is going to be primarily case studies or other information being delivered from a single presenter or potentially two presenters to an audience as well, with the potentiality to have a Q&A at the end or some back and forth with the audience as well. But again, that's not mandatory for a presentation. Where we're really making the differentiation this year is going to be in workshops. We're only going to be using the workshop classification for sessions that are hands-on. And those are primarily going to be activities or things that have more tangible results at the end of it, whether that's a demonstrative takeaway or a real focus on applying and developing skills within the session within it. And those room setups for all of those are kind of self-explanatory in regards to the AV support, but workshops will also attempt to make sure we have the correct seating if you need tables for handouts or writing or any sort of those activities for that. And then the final three that are kind of addressed on this slide are going to be what are typically called roundtables in previous years. We're just being more specific in how we're defining them and kind of adding some more context around what they should be. Roundtables are primarily peer learning, and we're kind of differentiating what we consider peer learning this year. So if there's truly a topic based situation for the conversation, or there's a kind of big header similar to a forum, those are going to be part of our coffee talks. The affinity sessions will also occur in that same time period, but could also be situated at different time periods than that typical morning session for the coffee talks this year. But the real differentiation is that we are opening up private meetings. Some examples of private meetings we've hosted in the past that haven't occurred during this typical coffee talk hour in the morning has been state presenter consortia, other associate membership meetings, like the NAPAMA meeting that happens on site at the WAA conference. Pretty much any type of session that's really closed to a larger group of people or is for a smaller subsegment of the WAA attendance at the conference, we're going to consider a private meeting. And some of these may take place in the coffee talk hour, like I said, or they'll be situated towards the end of the conference based on the needs of the individual group. I know state arts consortia, we typically have them towards the end of the week of the conference because that's kind of where they're having those big block booking conversations. But again, just as a quick reminder, all of these different types of professional development or sessions you all might be interested in hosting, the deadline is going to be March 14th. And now jumping into our pitch sessions, both of the two pitch sessions we typically offer will be making a reappearance at this year's conference. We'll be hosting both Amplified and Pitch Now, which is Pitch, New, and Out of the Box Works. Pitch Now will be offered in person on site in LA, whereas this year we'll be expanding the amount of pitches we're taking for Amplified, and we're planning to have those online in the months and weeks preceding the conference. We're really hoping that this change for having Amplified ahead of the conference not only creates a digital asset for folks to be able to use when presenting their work, but will really help precipitate booking of meetings ahead of the conference. As we know, there's still some difficulty even with a pitch on site at the conference to be able to follow up on potential meetings that could happen from the pitch. So we're kind of hoping that having these pitch sessions occur in the months and weeks leading up to the conference, emerging professionals and established professionals are more easily able to connect with one another ahead of time when they're kind of plotting out their conference schedule over the summer. And this is just putting up the QR codes for those pitch sessions from 2024 in San Diego. And the pitch sessions will look pretty similar to this in terms of what Pitch Now will look like on site in LA this year, but Amplified will, like I said, happen online. And we are still trying to figure out the best format for that. We're speaking with Professional Development Committee, of course, and also some other groups that have held online and virtual pitch sessions in recent years to see kind of what the best practices are and how we can best use this opportunity and best communicate it to everyone. But I'll just leave those up for a little bit so you can get a chance to scan and just to go into a little bit more depth about Pitch Now as opposed to Amplified. Pitch Now will retain its 10-minute typical setup with the AV support of a projector, amplified audio, etc., that is typically in the room. And for clarity, Pitch Now is really for works that are in development, new, or looking for additional partners to bring the work to life. But you'll be able to participate in the quicker format of Amplified Online, which is really for established work that is already toured or is more difficult to showcase, which is one of the reasons why we have the pitch sessions, is for work that is not very easily showcased. And to move directly onto a big change that's happening this year, we're going to go and discuss our Jury to Showcase program. This year, we'll have an expanded juried program. It's going to take place over 3 nights, and we're going to have at least 3 venues. We'll have our opening plenary and opening showcase on the first day of the conference at the Novo, and that's going to be on September 2nd. We're going to have at least the Bovard Auditorium at USC campus. We are still in conversation with USC to potentially have additional venues, but at the very least, we know we will have the Bovard Auditorium and offer a showcase there that night. And then to close our conference, kind of a pseudo closing the day before the final day, Friday, Thursday, September 4th, we'll have a sunset showcase at Grand Performance. And obviously, these different showcases will kind of reflect the strengths of the venue and will be situated by the jury. And just to give some more depth about the jury process, we are also expanding the different types of showcases we'll be supporting this year as part of the juried showcase. We'll be able to support industry premieres up to 45 minutes. Just a point of clarity about the up to language. This is a maximum amount of time that the jury showcase committee is able to offer to a particular act, but that doesn't mean that each of these different kind of showcase types will be exactly 45 minutes. The industry premiere may be up to 30 minutes, maybe up to 15 minutes, just based on what work is available and also kind of the schedule the showcase committee decides to seat. But just for more detail about that, of course, an industry premiere will be a showcase that exclusively features new work. A mixed program will be one that includes new work, but also some existing repertoire. And then the repertoire showcase is really the more typical showcase that you'll see at other conferences or have seen at WAA in the past, which is an up to 15-minute showcase that is showing previously toured work, existing work, to give kind of some insight on a particular act's, for lack of a better term, when using it, repertoire. And some more detail about the adjudication. The full lineup and program will be adjudicated and selected by the jury made up of WAA Showcase Committee, and they will ultimately determine showcase date, length, and location. In addition to that, our showcase producer will work with each act that's selected to finalize the actual lineup to make sure that the flow of the program works within the technical limitations of each venue. The 3 big criteria the jury will kind of rate each application on is going to be readiness to tour, artistic excellence, and artistic merit. Each showcase committee selects the acts collaboratively and they have staff support, but there is no WAA staff intervention, direction, or influence. We don't provide any type of programming priorities or discipline priorities. The committee works independently with the applications we receive. And just as a note as well, this process is always highly competitive, and we always have more really fantastic work than we actually have capacity support for the program. So if you haven't gotten a showcase before and are interested in applying this year, definitely, if it's something that you're interested in, apply year over year, because the Juried Showcase Committee changes year over year, and each one has a different set of priorities year over year as well. And just a few recommendations in regards to building out your application. You should put your best foot forward. And to do that, we think you should include work samples that are reflective of your current artistic practice, and potentially, if you have footage of this, what you want to showcase at WAA. And in the past, we've also recommended that you provide a shorter and longer work sample based on the context of the discipline or genre you're working in. Of course, a theater piece has a different thought process around what is a long theater piece or a short theater piece. similar like what is a long dance performance, what is a short dance performance. Um, and just to be more clear, the jury is only considering live video. If you have some produced video, but you don't have anything else, we still recommend using those work samples, but the jury will not consider sizzle reels, promos, or news features, or anything that isn't really focused on the actual performance. This is what the jury uses to kind of assess artistic excellence criteria, is the actual work on display as opposed to any type of testimonial type of promotional materials you may have. And we also recommend that you give us non-password protected links. Maybe they're unlisted, so they're not searchable online, but are only available to people with the link, and using services such as YouTube or Vimeo for that. We don't recommend using links to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or other sorts of social media platforms. There's been difficulty in the past with using those resources or using the full work sample in that format. So we do think that either providing them on those other video platforms or through a file share that has an embedded video player, those are kind of the best places to host that video. In addition to that, we do request that when you're writing your statements and proposals in your juried showcase application, you should situate and give context for your work in regards to like the full spectrum of the performing arts. This is the pieces of the application that the jury is going to use when assessing artistic merit. A well-written, thoughtful, and concise application will definitely give you the best opportunity to make your case to the jury, so they're able to situate and select a very thoughtful showcase lineup each night as well. And of course, if you have any questions about the application, if there's anything unclear within it, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to give more detail or give recommendations or resources on writing to the questions. While staff can't give direct feedback and won't give direct feedback on an application or review it closely, we can review for completeness if you're worried about that, but any type of opinion we can't offer to you all, unfortunately. And also, we are still collecting committee service interest forms. So if you are someone who's interested in serving on the showcase committee or serving on any committee at WAA, go ahead and scan this QR code and you'll be able to submit your showcase service interest, and we'll be able to reach back out with what opportunities are available and what committees have space. But we are still looking for jurors / showcase committee members. So I'll just leave this up briefly. So if anyone's interested, they can go ahead and scan the code. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what independent showcasing will look like this year. Oh, where is it? There we go. Independent showcasing. So for this year in 2025, to be clear, we are not going to be providing any hotel space or working within the hotel with showcase producers to execute showcasing within the hotel. This isn't to say that we won't have independent showcasing at all. We just won't be having anything within the hotel. And this isn't a new standard we're setting. This is something we're trying for 2025. So we may reintroduce in-hotel showcasing in future conferences. We just won't have showcases this year. And this decision wasn't made lightly. We made this decision after very extensive conversations in the last year with different stakeholders on all sides, including artists, producers, presenters, and agents. However, this is not to say that, again, we are not having independent showcasing. We definitely will be supporting it this year. And with that kind of change, we will be opening up the amount of time that we're allowing for independent showcases, including cross-programming at times. We have the only restrictions are going to be before 6 p.m. On Wednesday and Thursday, just so we don't conflict with the exhibit hall / the commons or any of the other conference programming. But we are allowing folks to have showcases that conflict with the juried showcases, and to have showcasing that will occur all day the first day of the conference, Tuesday, and showcasing that happens all day the last day of the conference on Friday. And we definitely invite you all to experiment with the independent showcase format as well, as we're kind of experimenting with the showcase format in general. And the support we're able to offer if you're an independent showcase producer or an independent producer seeking to produce a showcase. We're more than happy to publish your contact information and any other details about the showcase you're hoping to produce on our website. And also on the WAA website, we have provided some venues that are in kind of close proximity to the conference site that you may want to consider to rent or work with collaboratively to set those. In addition to that, if you are an artist who is a WAA member or you're an agent or manager representing an artist and they're having a full show at any point during the conference evenings, we are also happy to include those full gigs, full shows as part of the independent showcase listings this year. But for clarity, one restriction that we will maintain this year is that you do have to be a WAA member or represented by a WAA member to purchase a showcase listing and be within the official kind of conference materials. And that's kind of like the quick overview of what everything that's going to be happening in regards to those opportunities. I'm going to go ahead and go to our questions, and I'll take a look at the chat and address them slowly. I'm just going to start from the top and work my way down. Yes, all types of showcases, whether they're an industry premiere, mixed program, or repertoire, will be featured in all 3 nights. Within the Juried application, if you haven't taken a look at it already, you can preference a venue and give a rationale for why you want your particular showcase or showcase type at a particular venue. So there's definitely room for that. But again, as I said previously, ultimately the Juried, the showcase committee will dictate what will be the venue, location, and timing of the actual showcase and the type of showcase. I'm also sorry to hear that people are having issues with the links and the QR codes. Thank you to Christian for providing some of those links so you guys can get to those websites regardless. I'll take a look to see if there's anything I can do before this webinar is published online to update that. How do we find people in location or independent showcases? That's a good question. Historically, producers that we've worked with, we've coordinated and contacted them ahead of time and reached out to them to get their contact information, ask if they are interested in producing showcases. This year, we're really doing an inverse of that. So producers who are interested in producing independent showcases should reach out to us, and we'll support them by, as I said, putting out the information and making sure that we're distributing and highlighting that these different venues at these different dates will have independent showcases offered and the contact information for those producers. And typically, historically as well, we did have that information listed on the main WAA website at westarts.org/showcase. Yes, we are still working through our budget for the off-site Juried showcases. The Novo is very, very close walking distance of the JW Marriott, so we won't be supplying transportation for that. It's about a 2-minute walk. It's just right around the corner from the actual hotel. But for the USC and Grand Performances showcases, we'll have a variety of modes of transportation, I believe, including likely busing for those who have mobility issues, and we'll likely also include some walk pools for folks who want to leave a little bit early from the conference hotel and just head over, since all the venues are in pretty close USC isn't in that close proximity of downtown LA, so we definitely will have busing for that. But the Grand Performances Showcase, I think, will also have some walk pools available. We make a 3-minute submission. How long should the longer video be? So the 3 minutes is kind of a not misnomer, but I think there is some confusion historically. The 3 minutes isn't a recommendation for the length of the work sample you provide. It's just an acknowledgement of how much time that we minimum ask the jurors to spend with the work samples of each application. So whether that 3 minutes is spent on a full 3 minute video, or if it's spent kind of parsing through different pieces of a work sample, that's just like the absolute minimum we ask. But your work samples can be any length, but we can't guarantee that all jurors will review a video that's an hour long. That's just kind of a note to the jury that's been misconstrued over time. You can provide timings within your application as well, um, in regards to what pieces of the video you want the jury to review. If there are particular videos of like portions of a longer video you want the jury to review, I would recommend definitely just cutting that part out of the larger video and having that be one of the work samples, and then providing the longer work sample as well. Has WA any connection with mental health resources for performing/touring artists? I do not know if we have in the past. I believe we did do a lot of resource sharing around um, the quarantine in 2020 and 2021 in regards to that, but I don't think we've published anything specifically or distributed any mental health resources for performing or touring artists in recent memory. We may have before my tenure at WA as well, but that's not necessarily something I can really clearly speak to. If you email me at membership@westarts.org, or just generally to staff@westarts.org, we can definitely distribute that out or see how that kind of like fits in with potentially like this year's conference or just our general membership offering. Because as a membership coordinator, I do think that is really helpful and probably good for us to do. Question from an LA local. I have a colleague who would be interested in presenting with me if accepted for the NOW program, but probably wouldn't be attending the greater conference. Is that something that is possible, or can they only badge members to be in the room? Yes, I'll also put my email in the chat. Yeah, if you have someone that's co-presenting with you just for that that single portion, if you're selected for Pitch Now, we have typically made exceptions for people who are only participating in that piece of programming. It just gets a little bit messier, and we'll definitely be in contact with folks who are selected about what resources they need for their pitch, and to make sure that we have all the information we need to like publish and have the correct contact information for you all as well, but we should be able to do that. Sorry, yeah, I'll slow down with answering the questions moving forward. And my email, the best one to reach me at is membership@westarts.org. But for the independent, and then just to read this question from Megan, one producer would be in charge of a room at the hotel, and independent artists would coordinate through them. Will that be the same for the venues outside the hotel this year, or would we coordinate with the venue? Either way, if there is a showcase producer that reaches out to us and wants us to publish information for a showcase that they're hoping to produce, we will put that information out there so you're able to get in contact with them directly. But if you are also interested in self-producing a showcase at a venue, that's also a correct way to go about it. Just jumping back up, how will you put the producer's info out? We'll definitely, in each of our email newsletters throughout the summer, we'll call attention to any new independent showcase opportunities within that, but we'll also keep our westarts.org/showcase page updated with the contact info, and any other details published are given to us to distribute that way. Is repertoire, and then reading this question from Lori, is repertoire meant to only one piece, or can you potentially show 2 excerpts within 15 minutes, up to 15? Also, if you apply for mixed work, does that mean you would not be considered for repertoire, or is your showcase considered all across all 3, regardless of the application suggesting a preference? Yes. Your application will be considered for all three based on the case you make within the application, whether you have a priority of what type of showcase you're interested in and venue. But you can offer more than just a single piece for a repertoire or a mixed work showcase. It's just kind of within the time allotted how you want to present your showcase, whether it's a medley of multiple pieces or a full performance of a more limited number of pieces. And then historically, the repertoire or more typical showcase format has been 15 minutes, but we have some different timings this year, so they could be as short as 10 minutes, but I wouldn't think they would end up being any shorter than that. It's likely that those repertoire showcases will be about 15 minutes. Michael asks, what about self-producing at the hotel? We will have most of the meeting space within the JW Marriott under contract for the WAA conference itself. So I can't speak to what is available or what hotel space is available directly through the JW Marriott. So that's just something you'd have to handle with them. We won't be offering any of our meeting space or any of the meeting rooms that we have booked with the hotel for pitch sessions for showcasing this year. What is the difference between amplified and pitch now? Yeah, so amplified is going to be work that has already been toured or is not very suitable for showcasing. That's typically what that pitch session has hosted. And those pitches are going to be hosted online. In the past, they've been about 5 minutes because we had so many in the hour that we had on site. But we'll have an expanded program of likely more than 10 pitches that we'll select for amplified this year. And we're still kind of working out what that online format will look like, whether it'll be the typical 5-minute total pitch and Q&A, or if we'll do maybe 10 minutes, 5-minute pitch, 5-minute Q&A, since we'll have more space for the online pitch session. But for pitch now, that's going to be for works in development or work that isn't necessarily ready to tour yet. Work that's looking for more investment, whether you're looking for partners, whether that be creative residency partners or a production support. That's really what Pitch Now is about, which is Pitch Now, now being kind of an acronym for new and out of the box work. When self-producing, does that include booking performances around and venues in the city? Will it be published? We will publish any showcase listing within our date and time parameters, regardless of the length and location. So if you're booking performances or having full acts in LA, you will be able to submit a listing and we will publish it. And I will be much more clear about reading all of the questions in full before answering. Laura asks, are there particular educational topics or areas of need among organizations that have been shared with WAA that would make a valuable professional development session? We don't have any pre-ascribed kind of topics this year or themes that we're going for this year other than the next great performance for this year's conference. So we're very open to what you're proposing. Some of the topic areas that have been required a lot of discussion in recent years has been, especially in San Diego, issues around artistic censorship has been a big topic, and also audience building in general has also been a very big topic in the last few years, and I don't think either of those topics have really been solved. So those are kind of two big areas I know that there's still a lot of questions and kind of resource generation that needs to happen around them. Another question from Michael, do agents/producers have the option to self-produce at the hotel? We don't, and just to reiterate, we typically in the past have booked out particular ballroom spaces within the hotel and set them aside specifically for green rooms and showcasing. This year, we will not be supplying that space. Um, you would just need to be in contact directly with the JW Marriott if they have any additional space to do that type of work, but I don't believe there's much additional meeting space that would be suitable for self-producing within the hotel that way. Um, but I don't personally have that information like on hand to be able to give more information. Oh, no worries, no worries. And then jumping to this question. As an emerging Indigenous musician, would it be good to apply to this? I have a new album that is coming out and I'm in need of support. That is a really good question. I think what I've typically offered to folks who have not really engaged with this kind of performing arts space is that potentially showcasing or participating in any type of showcasing is not the best first step when introducing yourself to the market or kind of getting your bearings in what this space does. I've typically invited or suggested that emerging artists or folks who haven't been within the space or established in the space to come to one conference just to participate to see kind of what the range looks like and what type of work is actually being done and kind of getting some footing to where you fit within the greater landscape of the conference and also kind of the field that is there at large. If you have been touring quite a bit or are pretty confident and well established in like book securing bookings and having those conversations, you definitely could engage in a bigger way, whether that means setting meetings in advance or exhibiting or focusing in on the juried showcase. But I definitely wouldn't recommend someone showcase their very first year engaging with kind of this performing arts center booking touring landscape. Is it accurate to say then that there will be no showcasing juried or independent on-site at the Marriott at all? Yes, I think that would be very accurate. We are not formally supporting on-site or in-hotel showcasing, and we will not have a juried showcase inside the hotel. I would say the closest thing to an in-hotel showcase would be the Novo juried showcase, just because of the proximity. That theater and venue is situated within the full LA Live complex, as is the hotel. But generally this year, there is not showcasing in the JW Marriott. Ah, yes. When applying for the juried showcase, when is the notification date for acceptance? We will be publishing and reaching out to ACTS no later than May. We're hoping to get through our adjudication process pretty quickly through April. That way we're able to be in conversation with selected artists at the beginning of May and also publish the full juried lineup by the end of May. See if there's any other questions. Can you please explain the requirements for submitting videos for the juried showcase application? Specifically, it says no sizzle reels, but it also says to provide a breadth of work. So to differentiate between what we're considering a sizzle reel versus like a breadth of work, um, we a sizzle reel is typically kind of a mismatch of testimonials, quick snippets of performance, not necessarily full songs and a lot of like audience footage or audience interviews. But the jury really just wants to see videos of the performance. So even if you have a 15-minute, say, work sample and there's 3 5-minute pieces within it, we wouldn't consider that a sizzle reel. We'll just consider that kind of a medley for the work sample for the juried showcase to be able to sit with. Um, Recommended video length. Generally, we don't recommend a particular amount of time for work sample videos. I would say that probably the most successful kind of work samples that the jury has most appreciated working with has been kind of work samples within the 15-minute range because that gives them an opportunity to see multiple different pieces of a performance and or they kind of get to see the arc of a snippet of a performance and it looks kind of similar to what a previous more traditional showcase has looked like. But it kind of just depends on the discipline. It's really hard to say because 15 minutes of dance is going to be very different than 15 minutes of music, um, so to speak. Can you speak a little bit about the costs for the different showcase types? So we have also published the pricing for the different juried showcases. Juried showcases do have not only the application fee of $95, but we do also collect a juried showcase fee to support the cost of showcasing. This year, we're really prioritizing industry premieres. And for that, showcase fee, it's going to be $1,000. And for mixed program and existing repertoire showcases, the showcase fee is $1,500. These fees were kind of developed based on what we've seen as like the market generally for showcasing. We just wanted to be in line with what is offered and independent showcasing and juried showcases and other events as well. Then again, industry premiere showcase fee is $1,000. Mixed program and repertoire showcases are $1,500. And the application fee that you submit with your application will be applied to that full juried showcase fee that will knock down $95 off that total cost. And in addition to that, we do provide 2 artist passes as part of being selected for a juried showcase. And those are to be used by artists performing within the showcase and isn't to be used for like administrative staff or an agent or manager. So for example, if you're an independent self-represented artist and you apply to the juried showcase and get it, then your cost to attend the conference is essentially covered, or at least your cost to register for the conference is covered under your showcase fee. Thank you. It will be my first conference. I'm bringing my group of Indigenous artists from India and hope to showcase should we only attend. If you're bringing a large group of folks over, I would say that organizing or participating in a produced independent showcase might be worthwhile. It is really expensive to showcase large groups. It's just kind of the how much you think you'll be able to get out of it and how big of an investment. Okay, only 4 of you. That's not too many. I would say it really is still just based on what you hope to accomplish and how familiar you are with um, just like working in general. And if you're pretty familiar with like booking and securing acts and have had touring dates through the US in general, I would say you probably would be okay with a larger presence at the conference, including a showcase. It's just more of a time and engagement thing than it is anything else in regards to the investment. Um, and every year it is going to be a large investment to participate in the conference. So, and we have noticed and kind of have some data to support that the longer that folks engage with WAA or engage at participating in this conference, the better results they have. So not to expect to have a full kind of calendar or itinerary of bookings post-conference in your first year. But starting to build relationships in the first year, maybe there are some bookings. The second year, you're more established and have contacts and know who's going to be on site at the conference typically. And we do start to see more and more folks with a much stronger ROI once they have built up a network and participated within the community over the arc. The question is, I am trying to figure out the best way to connect with booking agents outside of the Indian community. I recently found out about these conferences. Any advice? The big piece of advice that we have always offered to folks is to really know who you're speaking to and be very strategic about the asks you're making, and really to leverage the conference attendee list. We do publish an attendee list every so often throughout the summer that includes everyone who's registered for the conference, really doing your research and seeing where a venue or agency is located and also what type of work that they've showcased or programmed in the past is really important to make sure that your work is aligned with the programming priorities of the venue. Um, you'll have a much easier time making really targeted asks to venues that have showcased that type of work in the past, and be able to have a much more seamless conversation with them than it would be to engage with a venue that is discipline or genre specific, like a jazz venue, and you're not a jazz musician or a jazz act. There's kind of a it's kind of a dead end. So we do recommend, instead of having a very wide like communication strategy or email strategy, to just have much more targeted engagement. How much will it cost to exhibit this year? We haven't published rates for exhibiting, but it will be, I believe, it's still in line with what it has been historically. There might be some additional, might be a little bit more expensive. We're expanding the exhibit hall or the commons kind of footprint and offering some more different types of meeting spaces. And I can't really speak to what those will cost right now, but we're hoping to not only have meeting spaces within the commons exhibit hall, but have some different types of meeting spaces outside the exhibit hall as well. Some will be for reservation, and we'll have some more non-dedicated, non-reserved meeting space as well. Just because on site at the JW Marriott, we have seen that there's kind of limited location to have non-exhibit hall or non-commons conversations. There isn't much general meeting space throughout the site for that. Of the three locations, which one would a music artist be successful or a highly attended location? All three, we anticipate on being well attended. I wouldn't say any one is better than another. I would say that the Novo is much more probably musician friendly as a venue, and that would be the opening night showcase venue. That's just typically who has performed at that venue historically. Um, but I would say that we will likely showcase all disciplines all 3 nights. Would it make more sense for me to speak to people directly than rather than attend the conference? That's a really good question. It's kind of both. Really, what these booking conferences create is space for conversations to happen, as opposed to we will have networking and discovering opportunities built within the conference so people are able to get to know each other more. But we do know that the conference is very heavily a meetings-based conference, which means that folks are really reaching out over the summer and setting up meetings ahead of time and filling out kind of their full week with conversations with different folks, and then just using the conference as a place to be able to have all those conversations at one time, as opposed to having bits and pieces of a conversation over a full year. The full like performing arts center pack kind of booking season kicks off with our conference at the beginning and concludes with APAP um, in January. So kind of that 3 to 4 month process. We do know that quite a bit of the conversations that do happen at WA, if there isn't a full booking or a conversation finalized there, that it will likely get finalized by January APAP. So kind of a yes and the more touch points and opportunities that you have to um, communicate and see folks is always good. And we know that our community is and our kind of attendee base is much more community focused and relationship focused. So relationships come first before any type of business, oftentimes at WA. It's not as transactional of a marketplace as some other different events or different kind of booking situations can be. Is there already a point/planning person for the Oakland event in 2026? If so, who to contact? You'll just want to reach out to staff. We run the conferences year over year, as well as the membership program throughout the year. So if you're interested in participating and potentially like the host committee for the Oakland conference, or if there's anything in particular you're interested in, specifically to Oakland, feel free to send over an email to us and we'll make sure that we keep your name on file and make sure that we're able to like contact you or loop you into particular conversations that might be relevant for Oakland specifically. Is there already I don't know, how do you write that one? I noticed that projectors are not listed in tech for each site. Will we need to rent one or perhaps several groups need it and we pool the rental fee? Yes, we typically only supply backline and general technical equipment as opposed to any projection. We can work with our showcase producer to source that projector, but the cost for rental and having that would be on the individual group. And if multiple groups need this piece of tech or are interested in having it, you definitely could pull resources for that rental to kind of make that cost easier to bear. We have seen that in previous juried showcases, and this is also something that has occurred in independent showcasing as well. Is it possible to use film in our dance showcase at the Novo or the Bovard Auditorium? Is there enough time for setup? If your question is kind of similar to the projection question, I would say that you could use projection or film in it. The venue isn't set up for that specifically, so that would have additional costs that would be discussed between you and the showcase producer if you were selected. We have had projection at the showcase in the past just based on what tech that the venue does support and what we're providing. I would say likely the USC campus venues and the Nova would be the best places for projection like that. Just given like sunlight and lighting in regards to the grand performances venue, since it's outdoors, be a little bit more difficult for projection if it's a really large piece of the act to really shine in that venue. Anyone have any other final questions or thoughts that they want to levy right now? Hold for like a couple more seconds. Um, I'm still not clear how to apply for independent showcasing, through WA. So yeah, sorry if it was confusing going through that, since it's not clear for applying for independent showcasing. As of today, February 19th, we don't have any showcase producers that have reached out to us to publish information for independent showcasing. or whether or not there are any producers who will be hosting them. Um, Hopefully people do reach out to us and let us know that, hey, I will be producing a showcase this date. Can you put my information out there so people can contact me to get the slots, which we definitely will do. But right now, there's not necessarily an application process. Um, but we will get that information as soon as we have it up. And if you are interested in independently producing a showcase, or whether it's just for you or you wanting to co-share costs with someone, or if you're interested in finding folks to co-share cost or produce a showcase, we definitely can also help with that matchmaking as well, if that's something that you're interested in. And thank you to Chris as well for responding to Megan as well. Can you briefly touch on best methods for live music acts to present, pitch, juried showcase, etc.? So I would say that all three are viable. Whether you're interested in the amplified pitch session, independent showcasing, or juried showcasing, each one just kind of has a different um, mode. So if you're mostly interested in just kind of presenting like the full arc of a show, or getting everyone that would be within the live music act together for a showcase, I would definitely steer you towards a pitch session. Typically, pitch sessions have been for like larger dance acts or theater companies, though we still have music acts within them, especially very, very large ensemble acts. So that's like one way that it would go. I wouldn't say there's really like a best method. It's really part of the conference attendance strategy as a whole, of what you're attempting to, how much you're wanting to put into it, and see what that ROI is. And there's definitely been opportunities where a juried showcase artist not only participated in the juried showcase and had their information published um, through our like specific WAA channels and promoted that way, but those juried showcase acts then had additional independent showcases throughout the week as well, just for anyone who may have missed their showcase, or if there was other work that they wanted to make sure that presenters saw before kind of making their final decisions on their work. But there isn't really like one best method. I will say that in general, live music, or music as a like a discipline, is the most abundant. So I would say that in general is much more, or can be more competitive, just because there's a higher volume of musicians, ensembles, and acts that apply to the opportunities. And assume everyone's good. Any final thoughts from anyone? And thank you. And then final slide. Just this webpage has an aggregate of all of our open opportunities, so you can find all the details there. Just in case that QR code doesn't work, here is a link in the chat as well. It's just westarts.org/opportunities. And I will stay on as long as anyone wants and leave that up for a while. Thank you all for joining us at this webinar. It will be republished online, so we will edit out and make it more clear as well. But again, thank you all for joining us for this webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to either staff@westarts.org or send them to membership@westarts.org if you need any more help or any clarity on anything. Thank you.